For the costume, I was originally planning to do something like a steampunk top hat and waistcoat and vest and things like that. But I changed my mind and decided to just do a simple aviator cap and goggles, and then just use a regular leather jacket and Docker pants and boots and scarf, because that seemed to be a more typical aviator costume, and the aviator theme goes well with the balloon. So I found some videos that also made aviator caps, and I watched them and kind of drew up a template based on what I saw in those videos, and I adapted it a little bit, but it's basically just 3 pairs of pieces of EVA craft foam glued together, and then a couple of more pieces for the ear covers. And I also found an interesting technique to make the craft foam look like leather. I'll put a link in the description. It basically involves using an iron to press some crumpled tin foil into the craft foam. And it actually turned out quite well. The texture of the craft foam looks very much like some leather. I used just whatever craft foam I had in hand, which was blue, but I painted it later and it turned out pretty good. So anyway, I cut out the pieces according to the pattern and I hot glued them together. I was a little hesitant about the hot glue because I'd be out in the sun for a while each day, and I know from past years that hot glue doesn't do so well in the hot, sunny environment. However, I did go ahead and use hot glue just because I didn't have any contact cement on hand. In a few places I had to reinforce the craft foam and hot glue just by putting another piece inside. So after the cap was assembled, then I painted it. I didn't actually have any brown paint on hand. I had some orange and yellow and black and white. So I did kind of an artsy thing and sort of dabbed various blotches of those on there and kind of mixed them around a little bit randomly, and it turned out pretty good. It looks like aged leather just by dabbing bits of orange and black and sort of mixing them around, because that's basically how you get a brown color anyway. For the goggles, I had some old shop safety goggles, and I cut the rim off and then cut a piece of craft foam to fit that around the edge and hot glued it on, and then an elastic strap across the back. For the rivets, I also saw an interesting video several videos on how to do rivets from using hot glue or other types of glue or little wiggly eyes. I ended up using the wiggly eye approach, and it turned out quite well. I put a row of rivets across the top of the cap and also around the goggles, and then I used the rub and buff paint to make them look more metallic, and it actually turned out pretty good. So that was my DIY portion of the costume, and when it was combined with the leather jacket and the scarf and pants and boots, it looked reasonably believable as an aviator. So that's about all the notes I had on the costume part of it. I think I will do a little bit more serious cosplay techniques in future, because that really kind of adds some realism to the outfit.